Here we are back for part two, and how was the carnival, mate? How did you get through the whole thing?
Yeah, I tipped in front. Where I was delighted. So I was a bit down Derby Day. I haven't done it all mad ups yet, but I know I was a bit down Derby Day, about even Cup Day, about even final day, and had a very good Oaks Day. And what I'm wrapped about is that I didn't have one of my best bets winning at all. So to use your phrase, I stayed in the game.
That's it. That's I think one of the most important factors of being a good punter is not injuring yourself. Now, over the whole carnival, if we go back to Caulfield, Moonee Valley and the Flemington section, there were ample opportunities to injure yourself.
Yeah,
and you know, the key to having a successful spring period was to avoid enough of those injury opportunities and then take advantage of the ones that really suited you.
Yes.
So, you know, I could be really hard on myself and say I fell into a few I shouldn't have, but I did fall into the shorts, Aloysia and the Oaks. Which,
now that brings us to something, you know, because actually touched on part one, but when you can change things on the run, the horse didn't turn up. That didn't mean your methodology was wrong.
No, that's right. No, absolutely.
But the critical point was that we don't know. It started being laid, but then when it played up and they changed the shoeing, it got to $1.95 for Betfair. Now that horse had the form to be $1.50.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, I get amused by the history says way of keeping racing, and I'm not talking about masters of the craft like Daniel O'Sullivan and Dominic Byrne, but I mean just people who look at one race or two races and go, well, that's the pattern. I hope there's a horse with a single profile to hit in the Yankee Rose next year, because you will get $2.40 about a horse that should be $1.50. And have a look at how Samantha Miss went when it had a single profile, those two, and brained them in the Oaks. In general, if you're the best horse, you will win that race.
I think that's right. Yep. So I mean, one of the features of the whole carnival, Ralphie, was that the favoured runners struggled really to run up to their market expectations,
100%,
particularly at the short end of the price range. So that could just be a bit of variance. It probably is, but I think it's something worth keeping an eye on. I get the feeling that the methodology of the corporates who put up the early markets there's been a significant shift in the way that's being done.
Yes.
And I think that's part of what has caused that issue. Like, so that a lot of those horses are being marked shorter in the first markets that go up than they used to be.
Yes. So
it's sort of lending itself to the opportunities in those early markets not being in the obvious horses.
But we also see a carnival where we reach a lot of tipping points, and two of them I'll say would be Sydney form. Oh, SF, you know, so superior. Well, how often were we seeing Sydney horses over bet? And often not with great figures back in Sydney.
No.
And they generally disappoint the market through the spring.
Generally, yep.
The tipping point in the Melbourne Cup was horses must have a start here from overseas, and Ricky Ling, of course, didn't.
Yeah.
And I went with the herd for the first time, probably. So we just saw a lot of tipping points, and all it gets back to is what you always say, is that every race is unique.
Yeah, that's exactly right, because you'll always find an example to support whatever argument you want to make, right? But you know, at the end of the day, you just got to have a method, stick to it, wait for the opportunities that suit you. So I'm thankful that, you know, the sort of the ones that I look back on with it. Like, so one of the things I'm most pleased with of my own stuff over the whole spring was that I had not one bad day.
Right.
Okay. So
that's great.
You know, there was a lot of chop out meetings, but we didn't injure ourselves at any particular meeting. And then when the opportunities come along that did suit us, we took a pretty good advantage of them. So I'm talking about horses like Haydock and Savapinski, even the Derby. So we got good results out of those meetings and didn't put ourselves out of play in any of the others. So you hear a lot of stuff, particularly with the way social media is these days, on, you know, people that almost make punting sound easy. Now, you know, they're running services and that sort of thing. Unfortunately for punters, they will find out if they fall into that and they feel like they hear that noise and think, oh, punting must be easy, I'll get this guy stuffed on his back winner after winner. They'll be disappointed. They'll get that service, the strip out will come. They'll be disappointed because there is no one that beats the market by a huge market over any long period of time. The market's too brutal.
Yes.
And if you get overconfident, you start to think you're a genius, and you leave any low-hanging fruit out there, the Pac-Man will just come along and gobble it up. Right? So, to win, I think there is an opportunity for punters that want to work hard, or outsource to people like us if they want to, and bet smart. And there's an advantage over the big teams in knowing the horses really well.
And a region.
Okay, and a region. Because they've got these unbelievable systems that don't make many errors.
Yeah. But
they don't get. There's always opportunities in the nitty gritty.
Yes.
And that's the space.
Which one did you beat? I've got one in my head that I beat the herd. Which one do you reckon you beat the herd in? I mean, you had a couple of results.
I think a fresh one in the mind is Savapinski.
Right.
Okay. And that was an example of just having a real intimate feel for all the horses in that race. First of all, there was a lot of the class runners in that race were all 1600 metre horses. Okay, so
hang on. You said the class runners. Explain that further because I know what you mean.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, that's a long. Let's get back to that because that's a really long conversation. That's a good conversation for one of our shows.
All right.
So, to me, it was, and having an understanding of that stable. So, because of my background in Sydney, I know that the Waterhouse runners, the target race is always the one when they go up in distance. And she'd been kept at 1600 Savapinski for 4 runs.
Yep.
So, as soon as she appeared in a race up in distance, well, this is the race they wanted.
Right.
And then she drew the perfect barrier. And then the other 2,000 metre horse in the race, Inform, was for Leica, and she comes out race morning. So it was just a terrific situation, and the market in that race was very strong. Okay, they backed all the in the market horses very strongly, and it was a case where I just kept betting because I felt like there were a few factors that might escape the view of the victims, which is why they were so strong on prompt response, and even Tahani.
So, and having said that, I was with you.
I saved on those horses, eh? So I don't want us to get the wrong idea, and all my results are on my website. You can see every bet I had. But so I also saved on Tahani and prompt response, but Savapinski was the target.
Was injured.
Right. Okay.
So what I'm saying is, we just don't know. But we know that you won. So, and that's the great uncertainty of the case. Yeah. I'm trying to say the horse, and you know what? I've forgotten the name. The grey horse who was in the grey race on Oakstone. It's Mike Moroney's horse.
Tribal Wisdom. Yeah.
Tribal Wisdom. God bless it. It was my best result of the week.
Great example.
Of being a team because. G'day to Paddy Bet, who got very abused by that Bowie race, and that was a prime example of. But there was still some old style fundamentals in it because of the DSP there from the Bowie race where they found position very, very quickly and didn't bother moving really from the well back second favourite that led through it. And
my private subscribers that get the Pots Play service will be very aware of what I thought of that race. And I won on that race. We backed through by.
Right.
But
and so it's shown a stack of speed. Second start at Flemington, as you would well know, when Yancey, my friend, and who was the other horse in that? Because they had a heap of meetings. Yancey, my friend, Mr. Sneaky, the fruity horse. So there's some pretty serious form when it blew out. But then I went to Sydney, so you knew it had ability, you knew it had pace, you knew it wasn't through the race. So anyway, that was a good result, and it just slid under the robots' teams. But that's through really knowing a region.
Yes.
That we try and talk about because you can't beat them. There you go.
How we get there? That's a really good example.
8 minutes.
Oh, we're good.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's have a conversation about class because you hear it referred to a lot. You know, he's classy, horse up in class, down in class, over. Class. And what it actually means. And because you hear it so often, I've thought about it a few times, and I've never really discussed what I think it means because most operations these days will have a speed figure and a class figure and all that sort of so it's something worth noting. So you tell me, what's your opinion on where does it fit for you? What do you look for? How do you define class? And
how fast you run? That's how I define it. How fast you run? It's a race. Now you have to be able to run it in certain parts of a race. That means it's not necessarily just your overall time. But I think like weight, you can get Herald Sun or a race book or Best Bets or whatever and go, Class 2 last start, this is a listed race that's gone down in class, or listed race last start, there's a Group 2 is going up in class. That doesn't mean it's going from a harder race to an easy race or easy race to a hard race, because it might have been a very slow Group 2 or all those things. And that's what I'm saying, like with weight. You just look at the book and go, well, it had 53 and now it's got 56. It's gone up 3 kilos, punters, and that's the 1974 way that we still, for fuck's sake, try and tell people. And that's where the opportunities come, because often it'll line up that the Group 1 will be a better race than Group 2, but then sometimes it doesn't.
No, regularly happens.
And that time when it doesn't, beautiful, there's an opportunity.
You'll often have two 1400 metre races in the one day, or 2 mile races in the one day. One's 3-year-olds, one's got winks in it, it's weight for age race.
That's it.
They'll both run 135.
Yeah.
But them races aren't of equal value. You'll have to look deeper into it and find the proper value, and that's when this conversation of class actually, where it comes from to me. So my view on it is that it's about what horses can do at less than their maximum capacity. Horses rarely run at their maximum for the whole race. They're running at different efficiency rates during a race.
That's right.
Okay. Now the horses you'll be able to spot the class horses in a race. So it can be a maiden, and there's a potential Saturday winner in it. Okay. The way I spot horses like that when I'm watching maidens is the horse that travels within itself for the longest in the race.
Right.
Okay. I do the same thing in barrier trials.
Yes.
I look for the horses that are travelling within themselves for the longest.
Yeah.
Okay. Now at the other end of the extreme, the weight for age races are, in principle, our highest classed races.
Yes.
And they're often run at less than solid tempos.
Yeah.
Okay, so when they aren't, the class horses will be easily identified by the ones that travel within themselves the longest. So go and watch the Turnbull. It was run at a pretty solid tempo. Winks travelled within herself so much longer than any other horse in that race.
Yes.
And that to me identifies her class.
Yeah.
That identifies how much she's got on that field. And I take those same principles into every replay I watch.
Right.
I'm always looking for the horse that travels within itself for the longest, and then trying to, is it because it's got more talent than the other horses, or is it because it's getting a better run?
Bring a fundamental, because for instance with Boom Time that you found, well done, that I reckon is a bit of a theme for this spring, Invincibella being one. What do you think Invincibella, Mighty Boss and Boom Time all have in common?
Oh, they all ran in fast races at their previous run.
It is such a big starting point.
Yeah.
Pick fast run races at this time of year, because you like using the word platform, but it's such a fundamental, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. Talent versus preparation.
Yeah.
Okay. The idea, what you're really looking for, punters, is a horse that's really well prepared.
Yeah. That's
got the appropriate talent.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you can find both of those, then you've got a good bet.
And then you've got an over-exceeder. Is that a word? It's not a word, but anyway, an over-exceeder. Like Harlem, for instance, it had no platform to run its unbelievable Caulfield 2000. What's it done since? Yeah. It just couldn't rebound. That just gassed it. It might win an Australian Cup in the autumn, but it'll have 1400 at Futurity, or probably all Futurity, St George, and then I'll have that platform. But that platform is important. Sometimes they can over-exceed it, but they're not ready to do it again.
Yeah. I mean, that's an example of a horse to me that hasn't reached his peak yet.
Yep.
But he is a 2,000 metre horse.
Yes.
In my opinion. When tried at 2,400, he hasn't been able to finish the races off at all. Yep. Whereas in 2,000 metre races, he's travelled very well in them.
Yes.
So I'll give punters an example of what I'm talking about.
You've got 30 seconds more.
Really quick. There was a race on Saturday at Geelong. Okay.
Yep.
Now the class runners in that race, because they had a lot of talent, were Imperator Augustus and Strikeforce.
Yep.
Okay. However, they weren't coming off very good platform runs. They had breaks between runs. They had preparation issues. Goldfields, on the other hand, was extremely well prepared. Not enough as much class. It was well ridden because it had to be. It went up outside the lead and it shit in. And that's a perfect case of preparation defeating class.
Part 3.
We're back for part 3, punters.